What's up, everybody? Welcome to another killer episode of the Surf and Sales podcast. I am Scott Leese here with my good friend and co-host Richard Harris. How's it going, my man?
It's good. Like this is like old times. It's almost like we lived together. I've seen you 3 times this week. I've spent
Yeah,
3 hours this week with Scott.
it's almost like we work together again.
It is almost like that. So I wish we were closer. I wish we could hang out more. And
One day we just gotta get rid of the kids. We got like four
right,
more years, and then we can go wherever. You know.
Well, you
right,
guys got to put
exactly.
on more of the surf and sales events. That way, you guys meet up.
What
Oh, believe me, we've talked about
Wait a
it.
second. Wait a second. All of a sudden, John, I feel like he's a board member and he's just telling us to grow faster. I'm feeling a
Right.
lot of pressure here all of a sudden.
Oh, I also want to hear about the Portugal one. I saw that coming up.
Well,
So,
speaking of the Portugal one, if you have not checked it out or haven't heard yet, Surf and Sales Summit is headed to Europe in October 5th through 9th. We will be in Portugal on the coast based out of Peniche, Portugal, hitting up places like Ericeira, Santa Cruz, and even Nazaré. So check it out at
Are you really going to Nazaré?
surfandsales.com. We're not going to surf in Nazaré, Richard, but we're
Oh,
going to take a little trip and show people, you know,
the
we're going to
craziness
stand.
of
We're
it.
going to
That's
stand at the
fine.
base. We're going to stand at the base of the mountain and just look in wonder in awe.
Right, right. That, by
That's
the
what
way,
we're
that's
going to do.
that's the one thing of the what will Scott do and Richard do, where normally I do 99% of them. That's the one thing I won't do is Nazare. So nor
Yeah.
is it on my bucket list.
Well, it's not on my bucket list either. That's not a bucket list. That's a fuck it list. I'm dead once I get in the water.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
That's a good
yeah.
point. A
We are
bucket
brought to
list.
you
That's
by our
good.
good friends at Win AI. Always be winning. Close more deals by making your funnel faster, smarter, and smoother. Automate data capture, seamless CRM updates, and AI generated emails. Streamline all your favorite sales tools in one at Win AI. We are joined today by a friend and special guest. He is the founder and CEO of Level Up Leads. His name is Mr. John Karsant. Welcome to the show, John.
thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
man, really good to see you again. I want to know briefly, give us a little bit of detail about Level Up Leads. I know you've been working on this for a little bit now, man. It's been a couple years, actually, almost 4 years. You've been running
Yeah,
this business. So
exactly.
tell everybody what Level Up Leads is all about.
Yeah, so we are a sales development and appointment setting agency. So companies hire us to go out and implement campaigns for them. We supply the team, the tech stack, everything they need to get up and running in just a few weeks. And rather than having to do that all themselves, and the end goal is that we're giving their sales team more selling opportunities for booking demos in their calendar.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a tough, hard hitting question straight away.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
know it.
For what you do, I have seen reports and data that shows only 8% of people who engage with firms in and around yours, not your firm specifically, in and around yours, only 8% of companies who engage with them report a positive experience and success story. Why do you think that is?
Um, I think a lot of people are looking for quick wins, and they think just by outsourcing with a company that that's going to happen. And so I think it goes both ways, but it's on us to ask the questions on what are their expectations, what are their goals, do they have revenue targets, and if it's not realistic, just because we've run these for many companies, that it's on us to turn them away or point them to someone else. Um, the hard part is like it's also really hard to know what will work and what won't. So I've been really wrong with engaging with companies and kind of going internally like, I don't think this is going to work. And now they're a case study on our website. On the flip side, I've also been like, oh, this company's pretty good. I think we're gonna do well. They have a good name for themselves, and it doesn't. And so like I don't know, it's really hard to tell without actually starting to see what results will be like.
How do you work on refining your ICP then when it's so tricky like that?
For us
Yeah,
internally,
for you, right?
well, that's the tough part is you can work with just about anybody. So anything from like an actual physical product to a service to a SaaS. And so that's the tough part. It's more like uh, understanding their deal size. Do they have a healthy enough deal size for this to make sense? But at the end of the day, it's about them making more sales. And so they need to have a big enough deal size based on the spend their monthly spend with us. And we need to give them enough opportunities for this to make sense. If someone has less than a 10 or 15K deal size, it typically won't make sense because we won't be bringing them enough meetings for it to make sense. So it works out better when we have a company that has a much bigger deal size.
So you have to get real clear on your sort of disqualification criteria. You're asking these specific questions, like around average sales price, for example. So that hopefully helps you work with clients that you're more likely to have success for. But there's got to be a lot of bad actors out there who are just taking the money basically and saying, hey, I think that we can help. And then they can't help people for whatever reason. And then that sours the market for everybody else and creates this narrative around, oh, don't work with outsourced agencies. They don't work, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have to try to overcome all of that, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So he's like, yes, that's
well, fact. Here, I mean, like, so SDRs, whether you're hiring internally or using an outsourced agency, there's a lot of turnover regardless. So we kind of fall into that bucket. We just do it at a cheaper cost than them doing it internally. So they can get quicker to the market and get results faster. Doesn't mean that it will always be the results they want. But if you do it internally, there's a lot more risk and it's a lot more expensive. But the idea is that we're at least doing enough qualification on our end to be ahead of time, or at least get getting their expectations lower down to reality. Because we typically will do, like, we'll tell people, like, on average, you should see somewhere between like 1 to 3 meetings a week. But it really depends. Like, I don't know. I need to learn more about your product. Have you done this before? Like, there's a lot of companies that have never actually done outbound before. So you're kind of starting from scratch with some of them. If they have a more defined process and numbers they can share, it's just so much easier to get some numbers together and then start from there. But a lot of these companies, they'll be like, oh, well, I don't know. This is a new product for us. We've never done outreach in the United States before. And so you're kind of starting from scratch with them.
I'm going to ask you, I think you'll understand why I'm asking the question. Let's say someone called you for advice and they were asking you, and it's something different, totally different than what you do. What advice would you give someone who's trying to run a business in what could be conceived or perceived as a highly commoditized industry?
Just some examples of other companies.
What would you do to help them tell their story differently? What would you advise them to do to tell their story differently?
Well, what's funny is I actually have some kids in their young 20s. I call them kids. I'm 37.
I was going to say, you look like you're in your young 20s. So
I just turned 37 this week, but they're younger. They're staying with me right now. I started a side business with them, but they also have their own business. And so we were actually at dinner talking about this because they're in their marketing agencies, not similar to mine, but different, just with e-commerce and stuff like that. And just like my company, there's a lot of other companies out there that do the same stuff. So they're just getting started in theirs, and I was there asking me advice on what to do. And it's like, look, you got to figure out a way to stand out and build trust with people, and you can't be so hungry for like the early revenue. Like, you got to get some customers on your side that will go in to do, whether like case studies. You also have to have like people on your team, or not on your team, but like customers, past customers or current customers that will speak on your behalf. And like, you need to be trustworthy. Like, people don't know who to decide because there's 30 different options out there. You need to have all those case studies, reviews. You need to have a good social presence. Like, I just think it makes decision-making easier when they come to evaluate.
So of course, now I'll flip it back to you. Is that what you do? Do you feel like, because I feel like everybody had, like, first of all, whenever we talk to someone, we can all be commoditized, right? Like, everybody, initially their first thought is, oh, you're just like so-and-so. That's just how human nature is, right? We need a frame of reference. In your world, my world, Scott's world, there are definitely people who do the same things we do. What do you do with intent to make sure you are different and can carry that message forward to your prospects and customers? Because I think everybody needs a lesson in that.
Over time, I've adjusted the services of what we offer, and I've also, I would like to think, improved the quality. So For example, one being we only hire native English speakers now. Not all Americans. There's actually some of our top performers are from Ireland or the UK. Just their accent does really well. But like before, we didn't do that. It was just like, did they speak well? Did they have a little experience on the phone? So like, how can you stand out a little bit? Okay, one small little thing is, hey, look, we have native English speakers from the States calling into the States. And so like little things like that, it's actually more of a request than you would think. Like, hey, if I'm going to work with you, I want to have an American on my team, or I want to have an American on the phones. The little things like that to stand out. Now that's small, but I also think like building up the brand, and if someone goes and types your name into Google or they go to your website, like that all should be in line, like professional website, reviews on whatever, Clutch or G2. I just started a podcast because my YouTube channel is empty. And so like, yeah, I'm like a few months into that. I'm not really like that concerned about views and stuff, but that's just like one more thing that looks good. You can start interviewing people, and then you can start clipping that up and sharing it on social. I just think like covering your grounds across different channels and looking professional will go a long way.
Cool. That's good stuff. That's good.
Do you worry at all or spend any time thinking about the trend of phone and email struggling or not performing as well as it used to, and what that means for the future of a business like yours, and how you might have to adapt, or change things up? Or are you just like, whatever, I'm going to let other people worry about that. I'm going to do what we do until it stops working, until the wheels fall off the bus?
I think it's good to have other options, not put all your eggs in one basket. And over time, I've done that. Like there was a time when I never offered cold calling, and now I don't think we have one client that isn't using cold calling out of the different channels. So like there was a time when we just did email or LinkedIn, and if I stuck with that, just guessing here, I'd probably shut down the company if I just stuck with that. It's just not working very well. Cold calling is driving 80 to 90% of our results for our clients. Now, if that channel goes down, yeah, we have some other stuff like started offering SEO, but yeah, we'd be in trouble if that happened tomorrow. So yeah, you got to start thinking like, and it's probably my responsibility too. And you guys are always sharing stuff about this on socials, like where is it going? What can you do to stay ahead? What are you testing? But yeah, it is a concern of mine, right?
Yeah.
If for whatever reason, AI no longer became illegal to cold call, which I don't think it ever will, but right now it is. But if let's just say they reversed that and everyone started making AI calls, our service would no longer be very important.
Yeah.
Other than the ability to navigate a conversation better than AI. But let's just hope that never happens. I don't think we want our cell phones ringing every other 5 minutes.
That's already bad enough, right? There's certain exemptions to that law. Yeah, it's interesting because I how often do you run into, I assume it's a lot, you do your job, you set the appointments, and they just suck at sales, and then they want to blame you, right? Which is the equal of being a director of sales and my VP or CRO saying, we need more stuff in the funnel, it's the SDR's fault, when in fact it's kind of not. It's a conversion of conversation fault.
That can depend on the company. So some companies will look at it like, look, you did your job, it's on us to sell. Other companies will look at it like that, but then their board or CEO or whoever they're reporting to doesn't care. It's just like, look, we're spending money here, it's not leading to sales, so we're going to cut it. Other companies are more like, look, they're doing their job, maybe this is something internally and we need to swap out our sales guys or give them better training. So a little bit depends on the company on how they approach that.
Yeah, do you I want to sort of come out of this, right? We spent a lot of time talking about this particular part of the industry, but let's just talk about your entrepreneurial spirit, right? Where did it come from? Were you always an entrepreneur? what led you to this? And not necessarily, it could be this, what you're doing. It could also be this, like, I don't want to work for somebody else. Like, I'll let you sort of decipher that.
Yeah. So in 2015, I moved down to Argentina to travel around. I had quit my job. I previously taught tennis for a while. And while that was fun and I liked it, it wasn't what I want to do forever. So travel around for a while. And that was when I met my girlfriend, who's now my wife. But at the time I was like, well, if I want to continue this relationship, I need to get a remote job. And in 2015, that wasn't that common. Yeah, it was out there, but it was just much more difficult. So I got one, and it was in solar lead generation. And so that was a really good experience. It was a small startup and I learned a lot. And from there, I just worked at other startups, full sales cycle, scrappy. I just really was just thrown in there and had to figure things out on my own. And then I worked for, fast forward maybe 5 or 6 years, I worked for an outbound agency out of Ukraine. And that was pre-COVID and then during COVID. And then in the middle of COVID, I was like, I was financially stable and willing to risk it. Even if it didn't work out, I still had the confidence to go get a new job pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, why not just start this? And worst case scenario, a few months go by or whatever, 6 months go by and I lose some money and I go get a new job. Now, luckily that never happened, but that was kind of the when I was able to take that leap of faith.
Did you always have that confidence, risk-taking ability, or did something change at some point in the journey to have that mindset of, well, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah, not really. I'm not like a huge risk taker. I don't know why. I just felt more comfortable in doing so. Like, I'm lucky I didn't have any college debt. I, fairly careful with my money and was saving and working remotely during COVID. What was I doing? All I did was doing is working and making dinner. Like I wasn't doing that much. And I just had the financial stability to be like, look, I don't really care. Plus, it's not that expensive to spin up a company like this. So even if it, I don't have, there's software and people. Those are my costs. So yeah, it's funny. I did a reading a long time ago, and like a reading like a psychic type of thing, and she said I was going to be an entrepreneurial, and I just like kind of shrugged it off. And then I like looked back, I was like, oh damn, she was right. Yeah. It wasn't like a planned out thing.
Maybe we should go back and visit her. She got it right. We should ask her a few questions, Richard.
Yeah,
she's actually.
I was thinking, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say about some other people in my family have done readings with her, and she's actually pretty spot on in a lot of things. It's kind of spooky.
I was thinking we should maybe have someone come to Surf and Sales and do one, like find a local person and make that one of our activities, Scott, and see what happens. Like people would be
good news
out.
only. Right. You're only hoping to give us some coaching. Only deliver good news.
Yeah. So you don't get on that plane tomorrow when you go home. Don't
Stay one more week.
Yeah.
Right. Totally.
Are there tactics and tricks that your team and you have picked up in the cold calling game in the last 6 months to a year or so that you can share with the group that are bringing some different kinds of results? Like, have you had to change tactically? Like, what are people saying on the phone? So an example might be, hey, remember a few years ago when people were like, do you have 30 seconds so I can, try not to waste your time, or whatever that stupid intro was?
The permission-based openers?
Yeah.
That type of thing?
Exactly. God forbid that you believe in that permission-based opener. We can have a huge conversation and debate on that. But is there something like that like used to be working that doesn't work anymore, and you all have found something new?
I think a lot of it is just the delivery, the tone, and how you deliver that. You can make the same sentence sound a lot different based on how you say it. I would say the permission-based opener, while we do use it sometimes, it's getting overused, and we're starting to test out other things. But that's only part of it, right? You need someone just to listen to you. But then from there, you still got to have a good script, and you still got to have good questions to get them to open up. So that's just the beginning stage of getting them to listen to you. We started just going back to just a normal thing with just like, hey, how are you? And it's kind of weird. And they just say like, good, how are you? But it's getting them to like acknowledge you or like a human, and you're having a normal conversations with them. So we're testing that out. Again, it's just more so because I think the permission-based opener is being overused.
Yeah. I find it interesting that you said scripted out. And I've been a big proponent of scripting talk tracks, objection handling, all this kind of stuff. But there's a whole other camp that is like, no, I don't believe in scripts. How do you engage with the people who tell you, no, I don't believe in scripts? Those don't work.
Well, we always have a script for our SDRs. We're not just gonna one, it's a new client. We're not just gonna, and oftentimes they don't know either. So we have a script, they have to approve it, and we try to give them a type of framework. And it's a collaborative effort with the clients. They're going to be answering some questions that might come up. And then from there, we record everything. We have like AI training environments, and we have actual Patrick, who you had on here not too long ago, is the SDR manager. So he's helping train them as well. But no, we're not just going to throw them out there with no script. Like, we have to have a framework for them to follow. And then if they follow it, then if it's working, we know that, okay, great, that's working. If it's not, then we can make adjustments from there.
Is the AI role play stuff and AI coaching stuff effective for you right now?
It's actually a great selling point. We use a tool called, I don't know how to say it, Itero, I think is the name. So it allows our SDRs, it's challenging. So we have 30 SDRs. Like, how do you manage all that and get them up to speed with new clients and potentially new scripts? And so like, this allows them to get some practice reps in rather than practicing on actual prospects.
Right.
And we have a training call with each client. So they'll be able to practice, and then maybe some questions came up that wasn't in the script. So then when we have a training call with the client, they can go in, sound prepared. Like, hey, look, what should I say in this scenario? Or how should I best answer this? So that's helpful. And then the tool, which was nice, is so it will give feedback and coaching on just the practice reps ahead of time. But it also plugs into Orem, our dialer, and will analyze the live calls. So it'll give us feedback and allows Patrick to now, like, okay, how is he possibly going to go listen to recordings for 30 different people every day? Like, it's just not possible. But this allows him to know where to look at scale, right? Okay, these are the trends, or like this is coming up, and I can go look at this specific recording rather than not really knowing where to look. So it allows him to know where to focus his time.
It's interesting. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I appreciate you sharing that one. Because I agree with you 100% on the practice thing. But I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm listening to you talk about scripts and things that work. And the thing that really strikes me is how calm you are in this conversation, which isn't bad. Like, that's not a bad thing. And I'm sitting here going, boy, SDRs and sales reps, I think we're all coached to, and hired because we're aggressive and we have tenacity and go get it and da-da-da. And I think that's part of the reason some of these scripts don't work. Whereas if someone, John, with your pace comes in and this tone of, hey, how you doing? Look, I don't want to waste your time. Can I just have like 27 seconds, tell you why I'm calling? And, if you don't like it, hang up on me. If you came in with that slow of a pace, as opposed to the one where we're still trying to script our stuff out, I buy in more to what you're saying, like, which is like, hey, they all still work. It's just tone of voice matters and stuff. And so I don't know, I just felt like I've never quite heard it that way, and I've never listened for it in the way that you described it. And so it's powerful to me. Do you?
I'm not going to say oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not going to say like I'm the best salesperson ever, but just me as a person, I'm a shitty liar. So I don't know how to do anything else. So I'm pretty, like, I'll be honest with people. Yeah. This goes outside of work. Like, my friends I'm just not a good liar. So I don't lie. And so it's just easier to go about it that way. And I think if you're just straightforward with people and honest with them, I think it goes.
I agree with you. Like, I agree with you about the honesty and the trust you mentioned earlier. However, your tone of voice and the pace at which you're speaking, and I talk about pace and tone, and I talk about things like a leading tone or curiosity tone. Um, but hearing this pace is just, it's sort of just making me think. But I do love, I think you just gave us the title, which is, I'm not a good salesperson, but I'm a shitty liar. I think that might be the title of the
For the
episode.
episode.
That's a pretty good one. But anyway, like I just the way you're communicating is resonating with me. And so I compliment you on that. And I hope other people are hearing it and kind of thinking like, oh, maybe it's not the script, right? You do need scripts. You should have scripts. I fully agree with you and Scott. Like you better have scripts. But this is that other part that I think we don't pay much attention to. And I think we should, which is that pace, right?
Yeah.
We got to
One other thing we started doing not too long ago is, like I mentioned, a lot of our clients are still trying to figure things out. And one thing we'll do is, like, let's just say 3 weeks or a month goes by, we're just not seeing the results that we want. We'll just add in another SDR for free and try to figure out, like, hey, is this an SDR issue? Because if they're both now not booking, we can go back to the client and be like, look, we added on another SDR, same results. So we need to go back to maybe the targeting's off or maybe the messaging is off, but like helping the client get to their answers faster. And maybe it is an SDR issue and we'll swap them out. It doesn't happen, but typically they'll continue to not book and then we'll go back to the client.
Cool. Cool. Well, we're gotten to that part of the show where we slowly have to wrap it up. And we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Win.ai. They're doing some crazy cool stuff. If you haven't seen my video with me and Scott hugging it out, it's on LinkedIn. Please go check it out because they basically took 2 still pictures of us and made us move like we were real humans and from 2 different places.
Scary.
It was
deep fake everywhere.
Very deep fake. So, but in the meantime, John, what questions do you have for us? What can we answer for you?
How do you guys qualify your clients when you're having your calls? Like, how do you disqualify them or qualify them?
How much money do you have? No, that's Scott's approach.
Are you ready to start?
Yeah. Why haven't you paid me yet? I know it's our first call, but I haven't gotten my payment to take this call. That's Scott's approach.
No. The actual answer is, I'm very specific about the stage of the business that I'm working with. Like I only want to work with people trying to go 0 to 25 million, right? That initial sprint, that growth phase, that's the thing I've done so many times before. That's the thing that I, know really well. I don't try to deviate from that. So if somebody comes my way and they're like, hey, we do 250 million and we're trying to turn this ship around, I'm like, there's probably somebody better out there for that. Or if somebody is, building something in their garage right now, they don't have any customers whatsoever, they've never raised any money, I say to them, well, you're probably not going to be able to afford me. You're not going to be able to execute properly on the things that I'm telling you about, that type of stuff. So it's really this combination of, are you at the right stage to work on these kinds of things? Then I'm very keen to hear them tell me this is the most important thing for us right now. And if they can't commit to that, then I get real nervous that I'm going to be able to be as effective as I need to be. All right. I don't really care in terms of disqualifying about where they are operating or what industry they're in or what the sales cycle is like or any of that kind of thing. But then the last harsh, hard criteria is, do I actually want to help them? Do I actually get along with this person a little bit? Do I want to help John over the next 6 months grow his business, or am I ambivalent about it and I don't really care? Or do I think this is going to be a relationship full of lots of friction and we're not going to get along really well or communicate really well? So those are the initial things that I'm kind of vetting out, on a first call. What about you, Richard?
Mine's a little bit different because of the pond I swim in, right? Where I am a sales trainer. And so they generally have a sales team. Every now and then I'll get that early founder-led sales converting to to trying to scale sales. And I'll have a couple of those people. In that regard, I'm always very conscious of how much is this person even going to do what I ask them to do or tell them to do. Because there's nothing worse than working with someone who hires you and then thinks they're going to ignore you and then blame you when what they didn't work. And I've had one or two situations like that. Traditionally speaking, with sales teams, I spend a lot of time making sure I understand what their real pain is, right? Not that they need sales training or prospecting training or cold calling. Like that's nothing. I need to know why they do it. Why do they need it? Why are they asking me now in March of 2025? Why didn't they ask somebody back in March of 2024? What changed? And that gives me a lot of insight into how the company even operates and thinks, right? I'll get answers like we didn't have budget, or we didn't, we were just sitting on our money and we weren't going to spend anything, or we tried to do it ourselves. And so I can kind of vet out a little bit about that type of client and whether I want to work with them. I'm super fortunate, right? I think Scott is too, that like we don't have to do a lot of cold calling. Like people find us, and so it's easy for us to turn down someone if we feel like it's not a good fit. I also think I tell them that. I tell them early on, like, if I can't help you, I don't know. But, I know 4 other people who do this, right? Like I've had people call me and say, can you teach our team how to do better demos and PowerPoint presentations? I'm like, I mean, I could, but that's not my thing. Go talk to this person. So I think it's the most important thing is to know what you're good at, understand what your prospects and clients want, and really dig deep as to why it's so important for them to do this now as opposed to earlier, and then making sure that what you have aligns with what they want. And a lot of times they'll disqualify themselves, or they'll go find a competitor too. Like I think that's a big thing. The other way I disqualify people too is I ask them about the competitor. Like, who else are you talking to in the market? And if they're not talking to anybody, I'm like, okay, well, at some point they're going to. Or if they tell me, well, we've already spoken with 4 other people, then I'll just be straight up and say, then why are you talking to me? What haven't you found with them? Because I'm not going to let them looky-loo me and take my price to get a better deal from somebody else, right? And I'll straight up say that. So I'm a little more aggressive about some of those things. Doesn't happen a lot, but like you, I'm a straight shooter, and have, I feel like I have a little more snark in my voice. That could be because I'm still 19 years older than you, even though, I look like I'm 40 years older than you. But that's how I do it. That's like, and again, I'm in a really lucky place where like my business is good, my life is good. Kind of like what you were saying, like I don't have to take every piece of business that comes my way. Right. Like I had somebody last week ask me like, well, we could only get budget for $6,000. I'm like, well, good luck. I don't even like, I would refer you to somebody. I don't even know anybody who charges that low. Like, I really don't. Right. Like if you were like, okay, I need $5,000, I'd be like, well, okay, you could talk to this person, but, $5,000 less. But anyway, it's a long-winded answer, but that's my answer.
All right.
Thanks.
John, what's the best way for people to find you and engage with you?
LinkedIn, or trying to be a little more active on Twitter. So just starting there, but you can find me, John Karsant, or you can always go to the website, levelupleads.io.
All right, everybody.
What was the website again? Just one more time.
Levelupleads.io.
There you go. All right, John. Pleasure, man. Let me know when you're back in La Marinda.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for spending some time with us, man. We'll see everybody next time on the Surf and Sales Podcast.